All right, we're going to get started. Buddy and Andy have prepared a quick presentation. We're going to follow that with a brief Q&A with myself and then some audience questions as well. So please join me in welcoming Andy and Buddy.
12th Man Productions is the video branch of Texas A&M Athletics. We have been a work in progress for many years, just like everybody in this room. You're always adding and changing things. Never was the adding more than this past year. What we went through, I'll give you a 30,000-foot view. I started in A&M in 1993. I was me, myself, and I were the three video guys that did production. And when I wasn't doing coaches' shows, we were on top of lifts helping shoot football practice like a lot of people. 1996, they added a video board in Kyle Field. In 2005, Buddy came along and we created what is now known as 12th Man Productions. The name has been there for 10 years. The 12th Man is the biggest tradition that A&M is known for. And if anyone is in the room from Seattle, I apologize, but we had it first, and they actually pay us for it. The production facility was in 2005 upgraded to 10 full-time staff. We separated from the coaches video guys, so we put video boards in several of our venues, from basketball and baseball. We continue to have a mobile screen that rotates from soccer to softball to track that we facilitate as well. In 2012, there came to be a new conference that we were in. I don't know where the camera is, but it was called the 100-Year Decision. And the 100-Year Decision meant that we were going to be in what is known as the SEC, and what that meant for us was a lot of new venues we were going to go to, a lot of new partners we were going to work with. But we also started hearing about the inklings of something called the SEC Network. And as that came along, it was a perfect storm of sorts. And we talk about perfect storms. We're about to fly back into a big puddle in Texas here this afternoon. But 2012 was the first year of the SEC for Texas A&M. We were starting a redshirt freshman quarterback and a coach we had hired from Conference USA, and we were going to play in the SEC West. And everybody wondered how that would work out. The kid won the Heisman. We won hisses. I appreciate that. The A&M finished in the top 5 in football, and we've held our own so far. So it's been a good first entry as far as we viewed it. The administration said we are going to redo the stadium. Our old stadium held about 85,000. Last year we were in phase 1 of a $486 million expansion of the stadium. This year we are in phase 2. December 21st they imploded one side of the stadium. That included the side in which we worked for 20 years. And they said, as part of that process, they said about 3 years ago, you need to design a new facility. We said, how much money can we have? And they said, how much do we need? And then we said, how much will you give us? And they said, what do you need to do? And so the process continued as to what are we going to do? Who are we going to be? We knew this SEC network was coming. We knew we could build it from the ground up, whatever we needed to do. Not everyone has the luxury of being able to build from the ground up what you want your facility to be at the time that you're going to be doing that. We understand that. So we know that as we talk about this, we had a unique scenario going on. In our world, it was another perfect storm as the SEC network was starting to come along. So we ask for everything. We ask for what we thought would give us the most functionality. We built a scenario that gives us 2 studios. We built 4 edit rooms. This is our studio space here. That's our athletic director. So we asked for 2 studios, 6 edit rooms, 4 control rooms, a theater, and office space, among other things. This is a radio room that we can do live radio shows. Buddy, you can keep on walking through it. We built a green screen room where we can do full head-to-toe green screens. So this is our studio number 2.
Slash storage space.
Slash storage space. This is one of our control rooms. This is PCR number 1. We have 2 other control rooms across the hall that look exactly like this. We have a 3.5, which is what we call the 4th control room, that we use primarily for in-venue shows. The people that are sitting in the chairs are 95% students. We have no formal production track at Texas A&M, so we take college students through the door. We hire them just like Justin at Alabama was talking about. We interview them. We try to separate the super fan from the kid that really wants to do TV, and then we hire them based on their ability to show up and work when everybody else is in the stands watching. So that is a little bit of an overview of how we got to where we are. The process, we can get into the weeds a little bit with Karen on, but as of 2014, I'll give you sort of the overview of 2014. The stadium was half done. We have not missed playing a football game in the current stadium. We had a south video board built in 2014. We had one of our smaller boards built. If you've ever been to Mile High Stadium, it is similar in nature to Mile High Stadium. This is a slide that I believe does not show, or it's from the south. So you can see on the far left is the south board. It's an artist rendering of what the stadium will look like in September. This side of the stadium that we're looking at is now complete. The far side that you see on the other side is being built as we speak. There's still I-beam structure. There is no field there currently. That will all come in the next couple of months. So the 2014 started, we were in our old, what we call the SD control room. We had a single control room that we had since 2005. We were in the process of finishing out a new control room facility with the multi-control room facility in the south end zone underneath the new structure. October 15th, we moved into the new building while we were finishing soccer and volleyball through the SD facility. November 24th of 2014, we commissioned the new control room for the first time, ran anything from there, did a women's basketball event from the new facility. Thanksgiving night, about 3 days later, we played LSU in Kyle Field. After that game, we tore out the entire SD facility, clipped all the wires, pulled all the gear. It was all still on state inventory, so we couldn't chunk it in the trash. We pulled it all out. We had 18 hours to get out before the construction fences went up, so it was, as in the grand scheme of things, it was what you call a hell of a night, and we lost the game. But the next thing that happened was February 13th in the world of milestones for us. February 13th, we did our first event where we did dual events at the exact same time from the new facility. February 13th, we did a softball game, the in-stadium show, and the video board show, and an ESPN Watch ESPN production, and a baseball video board show and a Watch ESPN production side by side. So we had upwards of 60 people working at the same time. That was the first time we did that. Obviously we did it many times since, as baseball and softball conflicted many times. The goal was to have complete duality and to be able to do things side by side. When we planned it 3 years ago, and as they say, that we gave it to you, now you got to do it. And so crewing became a big issue. So, but we hired a bunch of more students. We have a lot of kids that are interested in it, despite not having an official TV track in Texas A&M. So we're excited to be here. We can answer any questions and go from there. Karen can sort of guide the rest of the discussion.
All right, thanks, guys. Start off with, I'd like to go back to that, the expanding of 12-man productions a few years back. Take me through the process of hearing about SEC Network. Were you then approached by ESPN, and how did that relationship kind of grow as you were expanding the footprint of 12th Man?
Yeah, and Buddy can jump in, but I'll tell you this: in the world of what we do, we were like a lot of people. We were a video board show. Everybody, our emphasis was on video boards. We did a weekly TV show that highlighted football in the fall and all sports in the spring. We did a lot of web content. We created our own graphics. We were working with our media rights holder to build out all the features and the graphics and the headshots, all that stuff. Not one bit of that did we ask in this whole process. They say, oh, you don't have to do any of that anymore. And so we are continuing to do that. But as the process evolved, and in, I think, late 2013, we had Rex Aarons is in the room from ESPN. Rex and Scott Hiked, and I think Adam Whitlock all came down, and we had a discussion, as 13 other schools did that are in the SEC network, with the process. What are you going to do? And we started telling them about our process to build out a facility, knowing that in the fall of 2014, we would be doing a lot of SD shows in soccer and volleyball. And Rex and Scott and Adam is the technical nuts and bolts guy for ESPN as far as fiber transmission and the links. Rex and Scott handled all the creative elements about what is an ESPN show supposed to look like from your point as far as standards. And Rex was an incredible asset as far as the technical component about facilities. We walked the facilities. We did venue checks. We looked at where camera locations were, where they currently existed for broadcast. And we were working with an administration that obviously, from what we have now, they were all about making sure that we were ready to go into the SEC and SEC network with as many tools in our toolbox as possible. So I think Buddy can add to that.
Well, I was gonna say, I think our administration is very big. The whole reason that A&M moved is A&M was trying to become a national school, and I think that the move to the SEC helped that. And our administration said, this is our chance to let's build whatever we have to build to where we can be on as many things as possible because we want to be seen. I think that was the main thing that our administration did. And so we knew that if we were able to build our own facility up from nothing, then let's go ahead and build 4 control rooms now, because there's going to be a time when there's multiple events and we're going to have to do the same big screen shows and those same broadcasts at the same time. So this is our chance to do it, because we're not going to get to go back and keep asking for more money. So this is our one time. We can lump it in with the stadium renovation, and this is our chance to get our big chunk of money, and so let's build it right now. That's the route that we took.
And our administration was very understanding that this would be a great thing to add right now while we were spending $500 million. Our chunk made sense to spend as well. So.
Okay. Let's go to those 4 control rooms that you mentioned. Could you describe a little bit what kind of gear you have in there, if it's the same through every control room, and maybe some of the responsibilities between all the different control rooms?
Yeah, I got a couple of notes so I can make sure I give you the right information. The control rooms, the 4 rooms are tied together. They are 2 by 2 Grass Valley K-frame chassis. We have 96 inputs and 48 outputs. There's 3 Grass Valley Carrera 3 ME panels and 1 that is a GV Carrera 2 ME panel. We have Ross. We have 4 2-channel Ross Expressions. We slow motion, we went the Dreamcatcher route. We have 4 everts, Dreamcatchers with 6 input, 2 output, and we have 4 K2 servers, intercom systems. We are Telex Atom, 176 ports. We have Yamaha audio boards for our broadcast component and Mackie boards for our support components. Fiber-wise, we pulled 48 fiber strands to each facility. Basketball, which is basketball, softball, soccer, softball, baseball, indoor track, swimming. There's a lot of technical components, and in the process, we could not do this. We wanted to have Chuck, our chief engineer, here. He wasn't able to make it due to some things going on at home. But the process started in 2013 in earnest as part of the build-out when we hired a consultant, WJHW, out of Dallas. They are one of the leaders, and a lot of people may know their name. Did Cowboy Stadium, did the Yankees rebuild, worked on Dodger Stadium, a lot of things. I think in Atlanta, they're working on the new Atlanta football facility here. So WJHW was our partner in 2005 when we did our initial build out. And so we brought in Chris Williams and WJHW again, and we said, Chris, we'd like 4 control rooms. We'd like a studio, 2 studios. We need Avid edit bays to keep doing what we're going to do. And so Chris worked with us on developing what that infrastructure would look like. And from that standpoint, we went and January 2014, we hired Diversified Systems out of Seattle. Diversified came in and we built out the literal Excel sheets of all of the connectivity. They started building this connectivity out in earnest in July of 2014, and we moved in October 15th, and like I said, November 24th, we did our first event. So we were on a fast-track process as part of the stadium build-out. So it's the control room. You want to talk about workflow in all the control rooms?
Yeah, so with our control rooms, we essentially have 4 control rooms, but 3 of them are exactly the same, essentially. And we have one that's a smaller control room that we set up to originally be, this is going to be where we'll do our big screen from, because we knew we share cameras from our broadcast to our big screen. I know that's a little what they were talking about on the last panel. So we share cameras between our broadcast and our big screen, so we don't need as much for our big screen, but it's a different show that's cut from a different room. And then we add a wireless camera to that so that they can do all of their sponsorship elements and still get that kind of stuff onto the screen that we've done in the past. And so we use, we wanted all those 3 control rooms to be essentially the same, so that our students that are using one to the other can know and pick up the other one. We basically run baseball here, in baseball and softball, what we just finished. We run baseball from one, we run softball from the other. Depending on the weekend, we have 3 different crews that work a broadcast event, and then the big screen component is within that crew as well. So there's 20 students on a crew, 2 full-time people, a producer and a director for the broadcast, and then we have a full-time person that's overseeing the big screen show. And then other than that, those crews will switch from whether it's crew 1, crew 2, or crew 3. If it's baseball or softball, then you run the weekend series. So we may go crew 1's doing baseball for the weekend, and crew 2 is doing softball for the weekend. They do all 3 of those games. Crew 3 is off that week, and then the next week it switches. So the Tuesday game might be crew 3, and then that next weekend, crew 2's doing softball, crew 1's doing baseball. They don't do the same sport because we want people to learn and do as many different things as possible. So in the fall, you may work soccer on Friday, you may work volleyball on Sunday. It just kind of depends the way we crew it, so that essentially we're trying to push as many people through and teach as many people the different sports and know how to be able to work everything by the time you leave here. That's our goal.
Okay, so take us back to that February 13th game, that day that you had your 2 productions
Crazy.
going on. Tell us some of the lessons learned. Was this workflow in place from day one, or have you tweaked it since then?
I think Buddy and I, you look back at the last year, and we can't remember September of 2014 a lot. And looking beyond February 13th, we can't think back that far either. But it was, you know, it was one of those things that we knew we needed more help when we got into early January, because we knew we were going to have a hard time crewing all the things that we were going to try to do. So end of January, we hired 30 more students.
Right. So we hired 30 students 2 weeks before the season started, because we started looking at the games that ESPN was asking us to do, and we said it's not possible. I mean, we literally don't have enough people on our staff to just work one event at the time that we're asking to put 2 shows out. And so we decided, hey, let's go get some more people now. We got 2 weeks to teach them. We'll teach everybody one spot. Your goal is to learn your one position, and then you're doing that for the rest of baseball and softball. And then you can start to learn other positions, and you can maybe sub in for somebody down the road. So that's kind of how we did that. We taught them for a week or two before. We're teaching ourselves. I mean, there's still things in our control room that I don't know how to do. I mean, we added so much stuff at one time, and it's something completely different because we've never done any broadcasts before, other than what we had done in the fall in our SD room. So there was a big a change there. That first day, I think audio is something that we had no idea what we were doing, because we've only done big screens, and so we just play our video that's pre-produced or whatever, and that's our audio. So that was something that we definitely tweaked, because it was really rough at first. We're learning how to do that. We were shooting our new cameras. There were settings on our cameras within shading that our cameras lighting was going crazy the first day, and just stuff like that we had to figure out, okay, we don't know exactly how this new shading box works and that kind of stuff. But it's all stuff that we tweaked, and then by 2 months in, everybody felt pretty comfortable. It was just another day, and there wasn't hardly any issues.
Yeah, it's amazing how quick new felt normal. But the biggest single thing, you can set up the cameras and they all land back in the CCUs, and all that works fairly well. But I think the comms and the audio is the biggest component that we had to master, just like Buddy said. We had a very robust intercom system that allows us to separate who we're talking to, so producer can talk to just the certain people, director can talk to certain people. And before, we were on the old-fashioned RTS where everybody talked to everybody as a giant party. And that took a little bit getting used to, and also from our engineering standpoint, just tweaking it out so that it worked the right way. And when the first time we did 5 linear events for the ESPN family over the last couple of months, we did 3 baseball games and 2 softball games, I think. And one of the nice things was we developed a workflow within what we did, but when they came in, we did the linear games. They brought in an ESPN producer, an ESPN director, an AD, and an AP, and they sat in those 4 chairs, and we got to shadow them as full-timers and watch their workflow. They used our students as camera operators, replay operators, graphics people, and we, in essence, got a chance to watch them the workflow. That was, I think, one of the moments that raised the bar for us, because it helped us see how much what we call the timeout coordinator was actually helping the producer watch all the components of the baseball game, and we hadn't seen that before. So whenever, I would say this, if you are in a position that TV trucks show up to your game like they do for most all of us, ask to sit in the truck when you get a chance. Watch what they do. It's helpful for us to this day to see the workflow of everything, because that has been the biggest single change is, like I said, no one said you don't have to do the media rights sponsor elements anymore. Nobody said that the in-game show doesn't matter as much anymore. So, we cannot compromise that. So that is one of the things we try to do. Now, football is its own animal. That whole building becomes a football game day experience moment. And so we are looking at using our studio for a pregame element as part of our in-stadium show. We have ribbon boards. We have 3 boards, the south boards, I think about 7,600 feet, square foot boards. We have 2 smaller boards on the north end. If you've been to Mile High Stadium, it's the same sort of configuration and look, and actually it's the same Daktronics technology. So we will have a brand new sound system in the stadium this fall with that will be another challenge for us, because none of this is getting done months ahead of time. It's actually coming in weeks before we're having to do it. So the programming, I think, from Buddy's standpoint, we were extremely challenged to make that happen while we were doing softball or volleyball and soccer games last fall. So February 13th was a day that will live in infamy to us. Nobody crashed, but we didn't. It wasn't the best TV that was ever made, but we figured out a lot, and we grew from it. And that was, I think, one of the lessons that we learned is that it doesn't have to be perfect to be good, but the kids learned a lot, we learned a lot, and we continue to learn. So.
Great. Question over here.
Really allowed you guys to be able to enter year 2 hitting the ground running, or do you feel like there are still a lot of shortcomings from year 1 that you still have to work out?
Yeah, I guess best way to answer that is, we have been given a vast amount of tools, in our toolbox, and from our standpoint, year 1 was really, it's. I always like to say it was sort of like changing a tire while you're going 55 miles an hour down the road. I mean, to move during our off week of football season into a brand new facility was crazy. Trying to learn new gear. December and January, we had people that, or a lot of people are in the room next to us were coming in as trainers, and we were training on the Ross this week. We got Grass Valley training when you're not doing the Ross train. So you 3 go from here to here, and hey, the Mackie or the audio guy from Yamaha is here to show us how to do that, and the Everts guy's here to lay out the video wall. What do you want it to look like? And actually, how do we run the router? All that stuff was going on in December and January. And so I would say this, year 2, we are very glad year 1 is over for a lot of reasons, because it was, I would say that was the biggest challenge that any of us probably ever have professionally, in terms of just such a massive change while the car is running. And we have a really nice car, and now we just need to learn how to use it better. And so from our standpoint, year 2, we have all the tools in place, making audio better, making the kids understand, cross-training for kids to not only be understand, hey, you were doing great with audio, I need you to now help teach our newer kids, and then I want to cross-train you to be our replay kid, because our model does not succeed without our students. They are the biggest component to making it work, and so training is going to be always part of the process. So we're always sort of adjunct teachers in effect, just like everybody in this room. We're a college, and so it makes sense from our administration standpoint that we involve college kids, and it works. I think by the end of the year, we watched all the other stuff that the other SEC schools were doing. I think collectively we could all say that it became harder for all of us to differentiate between what was a truck show and what wasn't. And so we took a lot of pride in knowing that, whether we were watching something Justin did at Alabama or Benny and his folks were doing, or anybody else, we all collectively felt like we set a new, nothing will ever be like the first time. Now we have some experience, so I think from that standpoint, we will grow as we go. So
I think we will hit the ground running next year as far as our broadcast, because now we kind of get the feel and we know what we have to do. Now we understand what the positions are supposed to be when we didn't necessarily know that. So I feel really confident about the broadcast in the future. The only thing that there's a lot of question marks with this football, because we've never run football from our new facility, because last year we ran it from a truck that we rented, and we brought all of our elements in on Thursday or Friday when the truck got there, and we loaded it all up, and it was not fun. But I think that will be the only thing that we need to set up our, all of our stuff to fit our strange sized board, and how that's going to all run, where we're going to run the ribbons from, where we're going to, and it's this new stadium that all of our donors and fans have put a ton of money into, and we want to open it with a bang. And so I think that's the one part we're not, that's something that would still work in progress. We want to open the new facility and finish Kyle Field with a bang as far as video board goes, and so that's what we got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, I think that's Buddy's point. We will bring the west side of the stadium will come online this year. We'll have another new video board that will be one of the two small ones on the north side. We'll have new ribbon boards, a lot of new programming challenges from that standpoint. So, Buddy became an expert at programming ribbons and designing where the clock and score lands.
I don't know if you guys like ribbons. I hate ribbons.
But it is a
hey, there we go.
It is a big challenge, but it is a great way for a sponsor to land, because we shook up our media rights holders world when we said we have to change. We can't do replay tags the way that you're used to having those replay tags done anymore. We need to look at remessaging them in other ways with ribbons and other things. They don't like change, and I get it. So we had to.
That's a good point. That's probably one of the biggest. I don't know as far as everyone else, that so many schools are starting to move more and more towards this broadcast element. I think that's one of the biggest issues is still keeping your sponsorship people happy, because they're starting to lose inventory here and there. So where are new places where we can add sponsorship elements to where there maybe not have been before? I think that's something that I'm sure everybody's struggling with a little bit. That's what we did for basketball this year. We used the broadcast. I'm just throwing out talking points, sorry. So we used the broadcast for our big screens, and then we used to always have replay tags. Well, can't do a replay tag and use that as a broadcast, obviously. So we would do our broadcast replays during the action, and then we would go to a timeout in basketball. We would use our wireless cam. We have somebody that's switching the basketball show for a big screen. Our wireless camera comes in, they shoot whatever half-court shot or whatever it is, fan of the game, and then we would go and back, and we would have a big screen replay person that's putting together replays from the last timeout. Then we would use our replay tags there. So during the break, we would go replay tag to maybe 30 seconds of the highlights of what just happened with every angle, back to a replay tag. That's what we did. I don't know. I thought it worked pretty well. Kept our sponsorship people happy. I know that was something that was talked about earlier, but that's something that we did that I thought we'll probably continue to do, because that's a place where you can still use replay tags on a big screen while using your broadcast in another room. So
Great. I think we have another question over here.
In terms of the Kyle Field renovation, can you talk about the new broadcast positions for the network TV booth, the cabling for TV? Because I know in the past you didn't have
the
new camera positions.
The new stadium will be fully cabled as far as a finished out facility. So when the truck pulls up, and as I always tell people, 18-wheelers from Bristol, Connecticut still show up to College Station and to Tuscaloosa and to all these other venues. They will still show up for every football game. So our primary concern for a football game will be giving is our biggest bang for a buck for a football in-venue show, because we're not broadcasting it ourselves, at least to this point. But where the big winners are is volleyball and soccer and baseball and softball, who for the first year ever got every home game they played on an ESPN platform. Unbelievable for us, and certainly a big selling point for the coaches in terms of recruiting and all that good stuff, and fan base. But to your point, as far as Kyle Field, the west side of the stadium that is being rebuilt, it will still be the side that hosts the broadcast partner, as far as ESPN or CBS, if they happen to be doing that game. That will be where the broadcast cameras go. The broadcast positions will be laid out just when you were here 2 years ago at College Station. The camera positions will essentially be in similar positions, even though a lot of the structure is new. The only difference is now they're all wired to a truck dock, we have an ENG dock as well, so that we have pedestals out there. So if your media folks are coming, we got 6 TV stations coming from Tuscaloosa, and they're all going to show up and want to do their live shots on the field. It's a plug-and-play deal from a junction box on the field to a pedestal out in the parking lot where the common ENG trucks park, so that we copied a lot of things from our WJHW footprint of how the Dallas Cowboys Stadium is laid out. So in that format, it will be a lot of similarities. So I don't know if that really answers your question, but gives you a sense that if you're bringing a truck and you want to do some of your own things, you'll have some connectivity back without having to run cables, a lot of them. So that's a nice thing. We'll have 2 broadcast booths. If a second broadcast, was not going on, like a secondary type broadcast, we will that will be where SkyCam can live. SkyCam has an alternate place to live. The stadium is built with permanent hooks for SkyCam, or whatever SkyCam the other guy is. I don't remember.
Any other questions? Oh, Andy in there.
Can you speak to how you recruit students to be involved in the program? Is it through the classroom, or is it just through their interest in sports production?
Right, so we don't have, there's no video broadcasting department or anything like that at A&M. We do have communications major, and that's where we get a lot of our students from. We have a sport management major, which is what I was originally. So we get a lot of people from there too, and then sometimes we get somebody from finance, or from, just somebody that thinks it's cool and they want to do it. We've turned some engineering?
Yeah, we had an aerospace
engineer that now works in Hollywood, and his parents probably hate us, but but we get students from everywhere. Originally it was a lot tougher to get students. It was never been tough, but we would maybe get 25, 30 applicants. We've continued to, I think that our people know what 12th Man Productions is more and more on our campus, just through social media, through, just all the screens and what we do. And then now with the SEC network, that helped us out a lot too. I think we usually do 1 or 2 times a year, we'll have like just a forum where we can just bring everybody in, everybody fills out applications, we just show what we are in like a 15-minute, presentation, what students do. And I think this last year we had like 160 applicants. And that's when we hired the 30 people in February. So we picked up a lot just through, we usually send something to the head of communications, the head of sports management, and the head of engineering department, just to try to get some engineers to help us as well. And then from there, and social media, and it's kind of picked up to that point, which is really nice. It's almost tough because we had so many applicants that there's probably some really good people that we didn't hire. But they were talking about that yesterday. We try to hire young people because if we hire you and we start showing you how to do stuff, we want to get 3 or 4 years out of you if we can. So we don't really hire anybody that's a senior, which is tough, but that's just kind of how we've done it.
Yeah, I think to add on to Buddy's point, 2005 when we started this, we had 12 kids apply and we hired all 12. In January, we put an ad in the student newspaper. We used social media. We were more of a known component, and you all know this, that every kid walking around today is walking around with a television in their pocket, and they are all talking to each other. It is a different world. They understand technology so much better than they did 10 years ago and certainly 20 years ago. They are all very video savvy, and so there is a lot more interest in us just by the nature of the beast. And so in January, when we put out, and we had 160 kids apply, we hired 30 of them. We interviewed 70. And these interview process, we sort of do a cattle call. We bring them in groups of 10 every 30 to 45 minutes, and we let them sit in a room. We have a couple of full-time staff sit in there with them, and Buddy and I are in the back, and we bring them for a one-on-one 5-minute moment where you can tell me why you want to work for 12th Man Productions, what's your interest, what's your background, thanks so much. But that cattle call is every bit more important, because what we want to do is set them all in a room, and our staff interacts with them, and we find out, as much as anything, will they fit with the rest of them? Because as much as anything, it's not so much how much you know before you walked in our door. Do you know how to edit? Do you know how to do this? Do you Final Cut Pro, After Effects, what do you know? It's, can you get along with us? Do you have a interest in sports without, to Justin's point yesterday, being a super fan? So we got to separate the super fan that all he wants to do is meet the Johnny Manziel and hang out with Kevin Sumlin kid, to the kid that wants to be the kid in the room with the camera when the lights come on.
We want kids that end up hanging out together after they work. That's what we found out over the years, is that's what works best, because they spend so many weekends together. Our crews almost become, little cliques, little like groups of, and that's what we want. So
we've had several marriages at this
yeah,
point
we have
happen.
multiple people have got married that were student workers at 12th Man Productions. But that's what we want. We want to bring people in because they're going to spend a lot of time together. So let's get a bunch of people that like hanging out together, because that makes work more fun, and then they're going to do it. So that's why we bring them in, and we actually see how people interact together. We say, okay, these guys might work together. These girls may work with that, and then we kind of build our group out of that.
And all these sports, we have 19 competitive sports as far as D1 sports, and we assign groups of 2 or 3 students to every sport. So there's a couple 3 students with equestrian, a couple 3 with men's and women's tennis, a couple 3 with men's and women's golf, swimming, baseball, and their job is to be student reporters for that sport. And they get the footage that we use for the highlight reels, they get the footage that we use for our YouTube videos, for our web content, the stuff that we will use for a feature at some level for a halftime of an SEC network broadcast, or a real-time review of the week in Texas A&M athletics that we show on the video board at basketball. So we use our students a lot, and at the point where they want to come to work every day, that's when you got them. And that's where you got the kid that we're like I said, we're supposed to limit them to 20, and we're having kids that we're working closer to 40, and we got to say, hey, we try to slow down, get it done. We're going to try to spread it out a little bit. That's when you feel like you got a lot of momentum behind it. So I don't know if that's helpful, but that's sort of how we handle it. Yeah. We pay them minimum wage, $7.25 an hour. I think somebody brought it up yesterday. Nobody's going to get rich working for us, and it's certainly not what a freelance position makes, running any of the same positions that a crew comes in. But the kids are, in the education world, these kids are getting real world experience. I mean, we had several kids that we have 2 kids doing internships in Bristol this summer. We have kids that got hired right out of here to do, one's worked for us doing 2 kids that were our TDs this year, that were the TDs for some of our spring sports. Both just got jobs with TV stations as TDs for newscasts. And so the opportunity to have real world experience is one of our carrots, and to view it as an opportunity to be a lab for the TV that you can't get in a classroom. But we pay them.
And we do crew meals too.
Yeah, pizza.
That helps. And they will really complain if you give them pizza too much. You got to kind of do little chicken
Chick-fil-A.
tenders.
We're the home of
just a little
Chick-fil-A.
this,
We
a
give them
little that.
Chick-fil-A.
Free food always helps.
Yeah.
All right, we have one more question.
What are your full-time numbers, thoughts of expansion, and what are the positions? Are there people devoted to live?
Yeah,
and
good
devoted to
question.
Yeah,
production?
really good question.
Good question. We as part of this whole new world order with the SEC network last fall, we said, you know what? We used to divide the full-time staff up and handle different sports responsibilities. You're going to work and help men's basketball and you're gonna help us do the TV show. We redid our model of primary responsibility so that there's 2 full-time staff. Their whole responsibility, primary responsibility, is to get us ready for an SEC broadcast. If we got a volleyball and soccer games, they're dealing with talent issues, they're dealing with storylines, they're dealing with graphics. If we have 2 other full-time full-timers that are dealing with the big screen shows. That doesn't mean that those 2 are working every video board show and those 2 are doing. They are responsible for getting us prepped for that. And Buddy and me and Clay and Cade and Shar and Brandon and all of us, Chris, we are all divided up, and we all divide and conquer those individual games as we go. So I might do a weekend baseball series, and Buddy is doing a weekend softball series. I might be the director for that one, and Buddy might be the director for that one. And next weekend, Clay is doing one, and Cade is doing another. And but Brandon and Char, who are our broadcast producers for content, have us ready to go. So we walk in, we get the notes, we talk to the talent day of, and we produce the show. It's a model that we have refined, but I think it works.
I think that one of the big things, and they were talking about it yesterday as well, is with us, we knew, I guess we looked at this and said, okay, that we're being asked to do a lot of broadcast events, and that's great, and we can do it, but we didn't want to throw our big screen away, because we put a lot of work into our big screen shows over the last decade of making them good, and we didn't want to suddenly say, okay, we don't care about that anymore, because it doesn't make sense. And so we try to split up and say, okay, let's have a couple people that are just still working on making sure that we have good intros and our sponsorship stuff still makes sense, and it's not just bad commercials. We wanted it to be something that fans would still enjoy that. So that's why we split ourselves and said, okay, just because you may be in charge of the big screen show, but doesn't mean you're necessarily producing that night's game. You're just making sure that all the elements are ready to go and that they're made and ready. And then I may be producing the game, or whoever. We take turns. We schedule out like a month or 2 ahead of time and say, all right. And then from then on, okay, I got this weekend, I got next Tuesday, and then I got next Sunday I'm doing the broadcast. So, because we split up that way, we didn't want to say, okay, if you're doing the big screen, then you'll never do a broadcast for the SEC network, because everybody wants to put that on the resume at some point. So we split up and said, okay, you're just getting the show ready, but then our big screen people may still come in and do some broadcasts as we get into baseball and softball. And so that's kind of how we did it. So everybody gets a chance to do some of the new things that we're doing, but at the same time, somebody's still in charge of a specific area. So we didn't want to lose that big screen show and it suddenly be, makes the place, basketball, to me, a big screen show is very important at basketball, because there's a lot, the momentum can absolutely change a game in basketball, I think, more than any sport. And then you got to have a big screen that still has some fun pump-ups and still has good music and still has some good highlight videos, and you can't just let that stuff go because we're doing broadcast now.
And team intros and all those things are all still highly important and highly effective for our fan bases, and our fans enjoy them. And the point of the panel earlier is to make sure that the in-stadium show, you give people a reason to show up and sit in the seat instead of their couch. That is the biggest challenge. So to the point earlier, we're going to work on refining what we did this year and try to build on it. So that's our big challenge now. So.
Well, there was another question. The staff, how much staff? Yeah, so we have 10
full-time
and
staff.
we're adding, actually we just hired a new intern that starts on Monday. So I guess we'll go to 11.
She comes to us from New Orleans, just graduated from University of New Orleans, was the TD for the New Orleans NBA team while she was in college. So she starts Monday, and we are all the world wanting to hire more engineers before we just make our one guy's life miserable, because this was crazy. So you had some help this year, but we need some more. So.
And our total student staff is about 65. I don't know if that was a question or not, but
yeah. So and the biggest single challenge that will always be is scheduling. So that was Buddy's world, is trying to make sure that we had people in the right seats for every broadcast and every big screen show, and so we collectively are all a team at Texas A&M, and so to do this, we had to all have buy-in from everybody, and we're still doing TV shows and still, like Buddy said, to try to put out content that the in-stadium show and the people in the seats still saw as relevant and good, was part of that challenge. So.
All right, well, unfortunately, we're out of time, but thank you guys very much.
Yep. Thank you.